It's thinking really hard. There we go. Now it's recording. All right, so this is Pasquala, and this is Chapter 6, A Decision is Made. I want you guys to be listening very carefully. If you have a piece of paper in front of you and you want to draw a picture about what's happening, that's a great strategy of how to remember the chapter. You can also jot some notes about the beginning, middle, and end. I do not have that assignment up today, but we will write a summary for this tomorrow, okay? So Chapter 6, A Decision is Made. The morning we were to leave on the return trip to our village, I became ill. My stomach ached and my head was hot with fever. My mother gave me tea made with herbs that she had carried with her on her long journey. We started homeward on the trail with our people, but I became so sick that my mother and father feared that I would die. My parents had heard of the Padres at Santa Ynez Mission, and as our fishing group came through the valley close to the mission, my parents decided not to continue the journey home. My father carried me in his arms to the mission to ask the Padres for help. Entering the mission grounds, we met a Padre who led us down a long corridor and into a small room. The Padre motioned to my father to put me on a narrow cot. The Padre leaned over me and softly spoke some words which I didn't understand. He stood by my side and put his cool hand on my burning forehead. Soon after Padre appeared, who knew a few words of our language. Soon another Padre appeared who knew a few words of our language. My father and mother told the Padre that we were Yokuts from the Valley of the Tules. A long journey through the mountain passes east of the mission. They told how we had come to the seashore with many members of the tribe to gather and dry fish to be taken back to our village. They told the Padre that on the last day of our fishing trip, we had had a great feast, and this morning I had become very ill. The Padre smiled and nodded his head. He left the room, and in a while he returned with a small bowl of clear soup. He lifted my head and slowly spooned some of the soup into my mouth. I swallowed some of it. I did not like the taste. Lying on the cot, my stomach ached and my head was hot. It was hard to keep my eyes open. Mother stood by my side of my cot and held my hand. I could hear my father's low voice speaking to me, but I was too weak to answer him. I was very tired, and soon I fell asleep. During the days when I was sick, my mother and father helped the Padres with the work at the mission. My parents told me that they had met many Chumash Indians living at the mission, but there were only a few Indians from the Valley of the Tules. As I grew stronger, I was able to walk about the mission. I asked my mother if there were soldados living at the mission. I had always feared the soldados, and even though I had never seen one, I had heard many terrible stories about them. Mother told me that only a few soldados lived at Mission Santa Ynez. She said that most of the soldados lived in a fort over the mountain range south of us. Mother told me a story she heard from an Indian woman at the mission. The woman's brother had tried to run away from the mission and had been caught by the soldados and whipped. When he ran away again, the soldiers caught him and locked him in a cell for many weeks. Mother warned me not to go near the soldiers and told me that as long as we were here at Santa Ynez Mission, we were to follow the Padres' rules. My parents talked about leaving Mission Santa Ynez and returning to our village. We knew that we should not stay at the mission. Father had always told me we were not to leave our village and live a different way of life. Father had said that when the Yokuts followed the ways of their people, there was always peace and happiness. We knew that if we stayed at the mission, we would be breaking the ways of our tribe. We would bring unhappiness to ourselves and to our people. One evening, as my parents spoke quietly about leaving the mission, I heard my father say that if we did not leave soon, we would be too ashamed to go home. The soldados also worried my father. Would they be sent after us if we left the mission? I could tell by the sound of my parents' voices that their hearts were heavy, wondering if we would stay at the mission or return to our own village. What would the Padres do if we left? Would the people of our village understand why we had come to the mission? When several weeks had passed, the Padre asked us to be baptized. He told us that baptism meant we would become neophytes, new members of the Christian church. We would follow the rules of the church and live and work at the mission. The mission would give us food, clothing, and blankets, and at certain times we would be allowed to visit our village. After listening to the padre, my father knew a decision had to be made. I remember the troubled look in my father's eyes. Father knew he was in disgrace of our people because he had left the tribe and was living at the mission. He didn't want to go home to the unhappiness he had caused the people of our village. He decided that we would be baptized and live at the mission. In the next few months, the padre taught us about the Christian God. When the padre baptized us, he chose the name Jose for my father and the name Maria for my mother. He gave me the name of Pasquala and told me it meant one who loves and helps others. Our lives as neophytes at Mission Santa Ynez had begun. Okay, I'm going to stop recording now.